nice.
We were laughing so hard because he's a kid. You could write a book about it. You know, he no more wants to be in school because he's on probation.
Yeah. Is he 18 yet?
Huh?
Is he 18?
No, of course he was.
Yeah.
And he's not home. Although we have found some problem with 18-year-olds that court order to go to school.
Yeah, I had a girl transferred in from South in algebra. She was here Tuesday for the first day, and then my wife's registrar to like the East, and she had a couple of Shawnee Mission South kids. And she's like, our kids are behind because when Shawnee Mission's semester ends, that's not consistent with ours. So
Right.
now it's like they got to figure out where they are. Can you
Yep.
catch up? Can you stay up?
Okay, so I'm going to tell Gabe and Chris that they can speak without a mask. And you can too if you want.
Okay, it'd be easier probably.
And then we just, afterward, we just need to, I'm going to tear the paper out of it. I got to act like I'm spraying it down. I have to get special permission for this.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So after you do your deal,
2 seats between you. These are the COVID rules that we've been dealing with since March.
Is there one camera?
There's 2 cameras.
And how does my family in Texas see this?
They go to YouTube.
KSMS?
Yeah, I sent the
YouTube?
link.
Okay, I send them that.
They'll be able to get it.
Can they see it tomorrow
They can see it now. They can see it live.
or tomorrow?
Or tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Saw McDonald's, saw Soup Bar, saw Bo, Dee Dee.
Was that Karen Benson?
Oh,
Hey, Todd.
Oh my God!
No, that's good. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Karen, can you hear me okay back there? Okay, thank you. My name's John Johnson, the extremely privileged athletic director of this wonderful school and community. On behalf of Dr. Todd Dane, our principal, and Shawnee Mission South High School, I want to thank you for being here tonight to help celebrate one of the greatest coaches we've had in the 55-year history of Shawnee Mission South and two of the greatest athletes we have had here. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our principal, Dr. Todd Dane. Dr. Dane has been tremendously supportive of the development of the Raider Athletic Hall of Fame. Also, and really most importantly, I'd like to introduce my assistant and the hardest worker in athletics these days, Ms. Karen Wagner. Karen is as committed to the Hall of Fame as anyone, and she's the go-to person for all that you see here tonight. This literally could not have been done without her, so thanks for everything you do, Karen. Normally, we celebrate our new induction class at halftime of the basketball game. But obviously, during COVID, the rules have changed. But we are all very excited about tonight. Not only will we get to hear a nice bio from our MC Dave Stewart, but for the first time, we will get to hear from the inductees themselves. I know many of you have come from parts far away, so we appreciate the support of this ceremony and our school. But for these three on stage tonight, this is where it all started. This is where their dreams were inspired and developed. This is where they developed the confidence to export themselves and to have confidence to contribute to the development of others. They are why we say there is nothing greater than a Raider. Since we're not on the normal 15-minute deadline we have at ball games, and we really push that deadline, I would like to share with you an anecdotal story that really highlights the importance of our connections tonight. Every year, except for the last couple years during the fall, there's an NFL team that stays over across 107th at the Sheridan, and they use Saturday. On Saturday, they use our stadium for their Saturday walkthrough for the Sunday game against the Chiefs. We've had Peyton Manning. We've had Tim Tebow. Usually it's the AFC West. We've had the Chargers and the Raiders and others. It's always kind of fun to see them come. Those guys are huge. But in any event, they're fun to see. And the last one that came was the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple years ago. And as I was standing talking to one of their PR guys on the track, we were chatting. He was trying to fill me in about locals. Is there somebody from MU or KU or K-State? The Jaguars happen to have a coach that went to Blue Valley Northwest. Nate Hackett, whose dad at the time, Paul Hackett, was coaching for the Chiefs. That kind of stuff. And so I'm standing there chatting, and this older guy who had been on the field coaching walked over to me and says, "Who are you?" And I said, "I was John Johnson, the athletic director here." And he said, "Well, you know, when I was on Devaney's staff at Nebraska in the 70s, this place was a hotbed. We recruited this place like no other school." And then he started to tick off all the athletes of the 70s that he was aware of. And I thought to myself, you know, that's just a tremendous story and a tremendous testament to what we have here. And I tell that story because it reinforces, the guy was Monty Kiffin. If you guys are football fans, you'll know who Monty Kiffin is. He's been a defensive coordinator for 100 teams. His son's Lane Kiffin. He's really well known in football circles. Again, I tell that story because it reinforces some of the history of athletic greatness of Raider athletics. And we hope that it inspires those here and those coming here to do great things. If we don't take time to honor our illustrious past, it gets lost, and our past is so grand, it deserves to live forever. So on this unusual night, as we celebrate excellence, these three inductees contribute to the great sense of pride felt by the South community. Guys, this is a big night. We all get to listen, remember, and share in all that you have done and achieved. So for our audience here and on our YouTube channel, it is time to celebrate. As always, our Master of Ceremonies this year is the one and only Dave Stewart, proud Raider, class of 1975. Dave?
Thank you, John. You know it's going to be the Hall of Fame night when the weather turns nasty. Every year, right? From the beginning, 2011, the weather's always failed to be our friend. We're obviously in a state of adjustment, being able to change things up a little bit, but excited to be able to keep the Hall of Fame streak alive at 12 years. It is such an elite group. When you talk about the history of the school and mentioned 55 years, think about all of the thousands of athletes and the coaches and administrators that came through this place. Our Hall of Fame has 36 members. Out of all those who at one time competed and loved this high school, my graduating class was 750. It's a labor of love to be on the selection committee with people who really care about the process and picking great people to be honored and remembered in this special way. I'm pretty sure Dr. Johnson has created some kind of a special group email that he's omitted me from, where everybody guesses when I'm going to start crying during somebody's induction. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think this year I'm safe. It'll happen. It might happen. You never know. It's always fun to be able to recognize those who come back from their Hall of Fame moment and celebrate with the next class. I try to acknowledge all of them by name. Clint Johnson, back in the old days, he was at the very beginning. He'd always come back, but he'd always find a way to blend in and not be recognized. And so finally we came up with a way to have all of the Hall of Famers come down on the court so we could all see them and honor them. Okay, what we're going to do is call out the Hall of Famers who I know are here. And with the mask, it's a little bit more difficult. So if I miss anybody, we'll backtrack. Hold your applause till the end, because if you clap louder for Dee Dee than Gurley, then Greg gets all hurt because somebody else got a bigger cheer than him. He's still big baby. Bill McDonald, baseball coach, Hall of Fame class of 2011. Coach, please stand up. I love telling him what to do. We coached baseball together. Don't sit down. I said, please stand up and stay unless you need to sit. You okay? We coached baseball together at Olathe East 4 years ago. That was incredible. Bruce Bove, swim coach, Hall of Fame class of 2018. Kate Benson Allen, class of 1995, basketball and volleyball, is here tonight. Also part of the committee. Dee Dee Lawless BN, cross-country track star, now just a volleyball mom, 2013 Hall of Fame. And Sue Clark, tennis, 2017. How about a nice hand for all the Hall of Famers who came here tonight? Did anybody sneak in? Did Clint Johnson show up? Is he hiding under a mask? Okay. Coach, now you can sit. Thank you for listening to me. The committee's really taken the Hall of Fame selection process seriously, making sure that we don't forget about the 1960s when the school was founded, when it began, the history, or take advantage of not recognizing the girls' sports or activities that may not seem as glamorous as football and basketball. We've always wanted to recognize swimming and golf and tennis, getting a good balance of sports in our Hall of Fame. One of the people I've really appreciated over the past 12 years is the longtime tennis coach who was always there for us on the committee, making sure that we were aware of former players who deserved to be in the Hall. Turns out he was the common denominator for all of them. Even though he put others in front of himself, we fixed that this year. What's funny is you think somebody who taught math forever, coached here for nearly 40 years, would have been an expert in his main sport from the beginning. Track and basketball, not a problem. He did both in college at Baker University. But when he first started teaching in KCK, Gabe really didn't know squat about tennis. Recreational, yeah, played for fun, but his knowledge and expertise grew from not having a whole lot going for him tennis-wise at the very beginning, and boy, did it. Initially, the Shawnee Mission School District was not going to pay for an assistant coach, with Jim Alderman, the head coach, knowing that he needed a second body. He needed help. He needed Gabe. He begged him, will you help me? We can split the $350 stipend. You don't have to be a math teacher. Fighting over all that dough. They just cut it right down the middle, right? $150 for you, $150 for me. Big $300 pot. Eventually, he'd run both the boys and girls programs and make an incredible impact on this school, statewide and beyond. Even though he never promoted himself for the Hall of Fame, his biggest competitor at Shawnee Mission East did. In Larry Tice's nomination letter, he wrote that no one surpassed Gabe's demeanor, fairness, honesty, confidence, and ability. He set an example for all coaches. One thing that's become a bit of a challenge over time, as most of us know, dealing with parents who don't always see clearly when it comes to their children's abilities. But Gabe considered the parents to be partners in all this. They worked together. They won together. Sue Clark is in the Hall of Fame and a multiple state champ. She won in doubles, a couple of singles titles, back-to-back team championships. She said Gabe was always supportive whether we won or lost. Then she thought about those words for a second and said, I'm not positive about supporting us when we lost because we never lost. So we're not sure, but we think that if we had lost, he would have been there for us in defeat as well. But it was a great place to coach tennis since the students were not normally raw. They'd taken lessons. They played on the Missouri Valley circuit. His impact was in many ways more personal. Treat kids equally. Give them a fair chance. Be willing to listen. Connect with the kids. Help on the psychological side of the game and with strategy. One boy literally couldn't play tennis to his best ability unless he could see coach on the other side of the fence. He won a double state championship. South often won the Sunflower League and regional titles, but always did its best under the brightest lights. If you look back at all of the titles, league, regional, and state, always trended up. South always did better in the biggest time of the competition season. 8 team state titles, 10 individual champions, 3 state titles in doubles. Gabe thinks it was pure luck that he landed at South and blended in with such a great faculty and administration. Great luck for the school and students all those years. Please welcome from the Hall of Fame class of 2021. The kids would do this after a couple of years in the program. They just call him Gabe. Dwayne Gabrielson from the 2021 class of Hall of Fame, Shawnee Mission South. Coach, come on up.
You're too short.
Yeah.
Well, he's adjusting. I'd like to thank the selection committee for picking me for this year. I know you had hundreds and hundreds of great athletes go through this school, and you finally got around to me, which is okay. I'm still here. I'd like to give a special recognition to Sue Clark. She put the idea in my head a couple of years ago that if I compiled a record of our past victories, she would do the recommendation and put all those details in a compact form. I know I spent many, many days going through the old yearbooks here at South, handed it over to her, and you heard what the result was. I really appreciate that. Also, I have to give a shout out to Jim Davison, who is a former co-coach with me, for speaking out on my behalf, and Larry Tice and Sue Chipman, who were tennis coaches at Shawnee Mission East. Even though they were our tennis rivals, they were very, very supreme beings. Also here sitting in the audience tonight is Frank and Mary Dodd. Don't get embarrassed. I got to single you out because you started our parent-teacher booster club. And through the yearly dues and the fundraisers here at school, you enabled each member of our large team to have a school uniform. And we also got to travel out of city to other tournaments because at the time you needed a face-to-face record with someone in order to get a seating at the state tournament. Also, some of you earlier players don't know what a awards banquet is. The Parent Booster Club made sure that we had a awards banquet at the end of each girls and boys season. I know they really like that event. I also have to point out to the parents that may be watching us tonight, I truly appreciate the type of player that you sent to me. Each year I had from 6 to 12 players that were varsity caliber. They didn't arrive here that way. It was you during the summers driving to private coaches, paying for it, taking them to the USTA tournaments around Kansas and the surrounding states. So when they arrived here, I didn't have to work on your skills very much. It was mainly your between the ears. I spent most of my time with the lower players teaching them the skills. Now, coming from a basketball and track background, you wonder, how in the heck did you get to be tennis coach? Well, my first 3 years were spent in Kansas City, Kansas, teaching math and coaching the boys' track team. And during those 3 summers, I worked on my master's degree at Central Missouri State. I was lucky enough in my psychology class that the guy sitting next to me said he was half of the United States Air Force doubles champion. And he said, if you can run, I will teach you how to play tennis. I said, yeah, I can run. So each day after class for 3 summers, I chased the ball, picked up the ball in the corners while he waited on me to hit the next ball. So I had a great teacher for 3 summers. So when I got to South and Jim Alderman asked me to help him with the tennis, I said, sure, I'm just coaching track, because when I applied to Shawnee Mission schools, I got a contract to teach math and coach track at Shawnee Mission East. 3 days before school started, I got a phone call that you have been transferred to Shawnee Mission South. So I drove out here to see this big, huge establishment where when I was in high school, we had 120 students in 4 classes, and South had over 2,000 students in 3 classes. It was only evident during the change of classes. You had to get out of their way for sure. Also, parents, I hope you're listening. You sent me some of the finest students I had on the tennis court. You instilled in them a character that I could not do myself. Not once in the 35 or so years that I coached did I ever have to chastise a player on the court for cheating at line calls, cursing, throwing their racket, hitting balls in anger. And some of you know that at other schools in the Shawnee Mission, that was not the case. In the early years, we were sort of in the dark ages where once you put a player on the court, you were not allowed to talk to them. And once they made it to the state level, it was all played in one day, 4 really tough matches. All of that changed in 1981 at the state tournament in Lawrence, which was a very rainy day, and everybody had to play on 4 courts indoors. So at 3 a.m. on a Halloween morning, I had to send Leslie Lewis out to play her final match. So I know that South parents and parents across the state of Kansas sent many, many letters to the state association complaining about such conditions, because when the boys' season arrived, we had a 2-day affair. I think the top 6 players received medals that they could keep. The top 3 teams were also announced. They figured out a way to score points. I know it was 1982 because the boys' tennis team was the first team title for tennis. I have to say that I really appreciate the intro by Dave Stewart. He was never one of my students, sorry to say, but I really appreciate what he has said tonight, and hopefully I have deserved this honor that you have bestowed upon me, selection committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabe. And I want everybody to take a look at the 3 tables, which are pretty much identical except for the level of handsomeness in the pictures. I mean, it's not a tie. It's close.
I had a lot to choose from.
Gabe wins by far, but they get this cool Hall of Fame letter jacket and Hall of Fame ring and a plaque that goes on the wall down by the gym, which the gym has been kind of made over in the last, 5 years maybe? And that wall is incredible. And you have framed jerseys from professional athletes. If you've never been down there, I don't know if it's open tonight or not. You can wander down there and take a look at all of the Hall of Famers going back to 2011, Steve Little, Clint Johnson, Kate Benson, Allen. Once upon a time, even in the big schools, the best athletes played all the sports. It was an exhausting tag team from one season to the next, but it was also a variety of skill development that benefited the athletes. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. When I see like an 8-year-old and all he does is play one sport, it drives me nuts. Because you see all of the first-round picks in the NFL, and they talk about how all these guys played multiple sports. I think there's great value in that. Our next Hall of Famer was like that. He played football in junior high at Indian Creek, ran track, did the pole vault because his dad did it, played baseball till his junior year at South, swam all the way through. And I think he's our first Hall of Fame yell leader. I was trying to think of all of the formers, and I don't think we've had one. Not just a pretty face with a megaphone, but like a gymnast. He would go round off, backhand spring, and a third. And all the people were just amazed at the athletic ability. They didn't know what he did in the pool. It's incredible. His childhood was a little bit like a military life. When the family lived here, didn't stay that long. They moved to Oklahoma, then New York, and back to Overland Park in this area. They did all of the moving with a full station wagon. As the youngest of 7 kids, there's a chance he was strapped to the luggage rack on top with that trip down to Oklahoma. But if you're the baby in the family, you don't want to be excluded. You got to be tough. You want to be involved. And he was. That's what made him want to be the best, compete, and always work hard. Swimming was the best fit because his dad wanted to be part of a country club, so he was always around the pool and in it. When success came, his parents did a great job putting him in situations where he could learn and improve and thrive. Wichita one summer, training at SMU in another. But he knew he could be great because everybody who mattered told him so. It was continual positive reinforcement, not letting him jump off course, especially in 7th grade when he told his mom he was going to quit. I'm done. No, you are not, young man. He did not quit. At South, he won 6 gold medals at state. 2 as a sophomore, 2 as a junior, then 2 more as a senior. Medley relay champion, 50 freestyle 3 times, 100 free. First place in the 400 freestyle relay. That last year, South took the team championship. His high school days were incredibly busy, but he still had legendary fun in this very auditorium where you're sitting here tonight. One year, he and his buddies decided after a football game they were going to spend the weekend inside Shawnee Mission South. They had it all planned out. Great plan, they executed it. The cooler was full of goodies, expertly packed. They lugged a television along and somehow found their way to a comfy spot above this stage and spent the night in the school building and got away with it. Statute of limitations expires after 40 years, so it's safe to talk about that now. Dr. Dane, the principal, is glad to know that. No harm, no foul. All right, he did a great job with that. And it's funny, when I talked to him on the phone the other day, he's, Dave, I can't talk, I'm in jail right now. I'm like, excuse me? He goes, oh, no, I'm at a jail. I'm an IT guy, and it's part of the jail prison circuit. I'm here all the time. And that's when I started to wonder what the real story was about this guy. Somewhere along the way, he had a race with track and cross-country legend DDBN. They would run down 98th Terrace to Mission, over to 98th Street, and back home. Nobody remembers who won. Brad could handle her climbing the auditorium catwalk, but not on a race on foot. Tonight, I'm not so sure. He was a decorated swimmer at KU and a team captain, eventually earning a full scholarship and competing for a spot on the 1984 U.S. Olympic team, earning a place in the trials in the 100 backstroke. One thing I think that's true about going to a school with a winner's environment like we had at South, you felt like you could do anything, whatever you set your mind to. Even though Brad hadn't played baseball since his junior year in high school, he walked on at KU, made the baseball team, and he pitched for the Jayhawks. He'll be signing autographs on the auditorium catwalk after the ceremony, searching for evidence left behind 40 years ago. Please welcome, from the Hall of Fame class of 2021, Brad Cohens. And just so you know, stay out there and model for a second, would you? He had these shoes custom made. And the good news is he was able to kind of hide behind and take off his cowboy boots and put them on. It's a great story behind him, but don't want to short the shoes.
We'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, thank you to everyone for joining us this evening here at Shawnee Mission South Auditorium. And yes, there is a story above. And a huge shout out to our guests, the students, Shawnee Mission South alumni, family, and friends joining us on YouTube. It means a lot. Congratulations to my fellow inductees, Gabe and Chris. I haven't met you yet, but I look forward to talking to you afterwards. And thank you, Dave, for that introduction. I'd like to start off by thanking Coach Bove for nominating me for the Athletic Hall of Fame. I'm truly honored. It was because of his great leadership and vision, my teammates and I realized success, and I'll get back to him in a few moments. Next, I'd like to thank the members of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee, and I'm extremely honored and proud to join the family and serve as needed until I turn 100 years old. That's another story. Thank you to my dad for loving the game of golf. Because of you, when you were on the course, I was in the pool, as David mentioned. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have achieved that. Mom, I know you're watching at home on YouTube. Thank you for everything. You drove me everywhere. I'm not supposed to say either. But I would not be standing here today without you realizing the support and my potential as a swimmer. I mean, we traveled everywhere. We started at Leawood South Country Club when I was 8 years old, and we moved to Oklahoma, and then we moved to New York, and we moved back, as Dave mentioned. Without her just realizing that potential was there, I wouldn't be here today. Thank you to my family for letting my mom take me everywhere. She was gone, obviously, a lot of weekends for that commitment, and I really appreciate that. To my classmates, to all of my friends that supported me along the way, as Dave mentioned, positive reinforcement goes a long way. And it's just so important, and you don't realize it until you reflect back what it truly did for you. And so, thank you for that. Now let's get back to Coach Bove. Coach, I want to apologize again. 2 years ago, he had his induction, and I found out, I think, a week before, and that wasn't anybody's fault except myself for just kind of being buried in my business and not keeping up with what was going on around me. But it was, 3,500 to 8,500 yards a day. That's 2 to 5 miles per day swimming, okay? That's crazy. I can't even run or walk that today. And so I don't know how we did it. Maybe Coach can come up here and explain it. I don't know. But you encouraged us, you guided us, but somehow we did it. And I'd also like to recognize the other state champions that I swam with when I was here, and there's a number of them today. Shawnee Mission South was able to win the 50 freestyle 6 years in a row. Pat Boppert is joining us today. He won in 77 and 78. I was successful in 79, 80, and 81. And Bill McGowan, he's a new grandfather, and I know he's home, watching tonight. And so he won in 82. So that was, 5 years in a row. Also, some other state champions that I swam with was Dave Whitmore, my brother Bill Cohens, who's here tonight, Paul Boppert, Dickie Hansen, let's see what else. And then our senior year, we had Kurt Ellenberger, Joe McGowan, and again, Bill McGowan joining us in the 100 freestyle. So we won 6 out of the 9 events that we entered in my years at South. And like I said, we wouldn't have achieved this without the coaching, Coach Birkendine and Coach Allen. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Again, your leadership, if we didn't achieve our no breathers, as my brother would tell me all the time, we would get swatted with a paddle. And, so it was amazing. I'd like to also say something to today's student athletes and swimmers. Don't be afraid to be great. Talk to your coaches. Let them know what you want to achieve. Know your craft. And even if you've never done it before, you're still going to improve from where you were. So don't be afraid to do something new, especially now. So finally, I'd also like to mention something to the teachers. Get to know your teachers. I wish I knew mine better. And it's just so important. The teachers, let's not put all the responsibility, on them. They try to recognize talents. They try to, build us up. But it doesn't hurt to go and talk to a teacher and just let them know that you might need help, or keep an eye on me. Make sure that I'm, not getting distracted. And I think it's a two-way street there. Finally, as Athletic Director Johnson mentioned, this was supposed to be in the gym. And that's where these shoes came from. I didn't bring the thing over, but it's from a company called Luminate. Check it out. My niece, Katie Cohens, had them specially made for me as a gift for this. So I thought walking across the gym, it might be pretty exciting to see. I've also got a pair of Jayhawk high tops in them, but they're pretty cool. Not only will they light up, okay, but you can also make them do different colors. And we'll get them going here. But anyway, so they're a lot of fun. She was working on a website for them, and she had a thing on the Masters. This was back in October. I remember October 13th when I got the email for this, and I was just floored. This opportunity was being presented for me, and the Masters, as you know, is for New Yellow. And I called Katie and I go, "So you're working with them?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Can we make some of those for Shawnee Mission South?" And so on one side it says SMS High School, and on the other side it says Raiders, and then on the very back they took the custom logo
when I called Brad the other day, I'm like, okay, so when was the last time you were in the pool? Oh, today I swam. How far? 1,000. And I had just got back from the pool and swam 1,000. The difference is my 50 time is his 100 time. So it's like I turn a 44, that's good for me. And back in the day, he probably did 100 and closer to that. Our third Hall of Famer also knew what it was like to protect his spot at mealtime with 9 kids in the family. You did not want to be late when the dinner bell rang or you were out of luck. For him, it was great growing up with active, athletic brothers because there was always some kind of a game going on. Way back in the day when kids played outside, remember that, what it was like? Kids go outside and play games, didn't have stuff in their hands, a little video. Not only that, their backyard was about an acre in size, so they didn't have to go far to find good competition. Sports all day, every day. He went to South when soccer was just getting started as an official KSHSAA sport. Initially, they called it a boys' team, but you'd see an occasional girl on a boys' team till the state sanctioned both. As a sophomore, he played mostly junior varsity. Not a big contributor on the varsity. There was a better player in front of him. It was humbling and eye-opening. He was able to use that information, that experience, that feeling years later as a collegiate coach when he saw student athletes in similar struggles. He could relate, been there, done that, know what it feels like. In 1986, as a junior, the Raider soccer team had big expectations. He was the leading scorer on a talented team that actually played for the state championship game in our stadium, got to play it at our place. He remembers 5,000 people being there for what was basically a home game. They went to sudden death in a golden goal format. First team to score wins. His teammate Brad Porch blasted a shot that went off the soccer post, off of the football goal post, ricocheted right back to our Hall of Famer, cherry picking, just sitting there for the game-winning tap-in. Best pass ever, Mr. Porch. As a senior, South didn't do that well in the regular season, record-wise. They had a big target. Everybody wanted a piece of the Raiders. They might have had a touch of the Lazies, don't know. Till the playoffs, then it was game on, no mercy. In the semis and finals, he scored 6 goals total, 3 in each, including the game winner for the second consecutive year when South ran it back-to-back. When you go to the history book in the state of Kansas, high school soccer, boys, Shawnee Mission South, the first 2 years. And that's his legacy. Sun Country Player of the Year, Metro Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year in Kansas. There wasn't video from that first championship, but there was video from his senior year in 1987, the grainy VHS video that at the time seemed really cool. And then you watch it like 10 years later, and it's ridiculous how bad it is. But we were so excited to be able to have video at the time. Since he's been a college coach for some 30 years, he thought it'd be fun to show his student athletes some of the video, and all they really noticed was how short his shorts really were. They cared about nothing else, how athletic, how skilled, how gifted, how hard he worked, just the shorts. With all those kids at home, getting a full scholarship was a big deal to him and his family, which is why he picked Drake University in Des Moines. As a freshman, he set a single-season scoring record. First year in college, Missouri Valley Freshman of the Year in conference. He later coached every soccer team that would have him at and around Brigham Young University for more than 20 years, where national titles were almost routine, 7 for the men. In 2016, he was named the head women's soccer coach at Gonzaga, where he became the fastest ever to reach 20 wins in school history in just his second season on the job. Coming back for this ceremony was kind of a big deal, complicated with his soccer schedule at Gonzaga. When we talked on the phone, he's like, Dave, I'm sorry, I'm getting on a bus with 28 girls right now. Can I call you back later? Yes, you can. He's got a big match coming up with Oregon, which is why he's going to be out of here early. But he's only been back 3 times before now since he left. It's a big deal to get him back at the high school. It is a big deal because he remembers South as the coolest school in the state. Can somebody give me an amen? How many people felt that way? Absolutely. And what a great time to work at Gonzaga, by the way. Go Zags.
He wears Gonzaga gear everywhere. He gets it from the school. Especially cool because men's basketball is so, so good. Please welcome our third Hall of Famer from the class of 2021, Chris Watkins.
Well, what an honor. I was looking through the previous members who have been honored in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of them were known in my house. And I know those names. My family went to school here from the mid-'70s to my younger brother, who was on the state championship team as well, from probably mid-'70s to '89. And so when Deeding Lawless was introduced a minute ago, I'm pretty sure my older brothers, I know that name. My older brothers were talking about you like crazy. They must have liked you. Greg Gurley, his brother Dan was our student body president. Kevin Rabbit, his brother Dan Rabbit was one of my best friends. And Bruce Bove, I remember him super well. Anyways, Dwayne, I played tennis for about a half an hour. I was my best friend, or one of my best friends at the time, Joe Magnus, was on the varsity team senior year. He's like, just come play tennis with us. And so I went and played tennis. You put me on the JV team. I was like 6th on the JV team, but you gave me a can of balls. And I thought, wow, I've got my own can of balls. And I thought it was so great. And really enjoyed tennis and still do to this day. But I was a senior. I don't even know if that's legal, but it was really fun. Kind of embarrassing to tell, by the way, too. But anyways, never thought I'd be here. I got my hair cut the other day, and after my haircut's almost over, the lady starts trimming the back of my ears. And I'm like, what's going on? And the last time I was in this building, nothing like that would have ever occurred to me. And yesterday I'm in the sun, new haircut, my bald spot's burning. It's crazy what's happened over the last few years, but really grateful. And Shawnee Mission South was the coolest place to be a student. I'm sure it still is, but in 1988, we had it all here, and I'm really grateful. And that's what I'm going to talk about here for a few minutes, and I'll be quick. I know everybody's got places to go. But first of all, my mom and dad. I didn't work when I was a kid. I had a job for a couple of months here and there, but my family didn't have a whole lot of money. Divided up by a lot of kids and things, and my dad worked really hard and did a great job, but with 9 kids, there's only so much you can do. And I didn't get that. I was just some kid that wanted to play soccer and go on to college and have soccer pay for it. And that was my goal. And my mom, when my dad would say, he needs to get a job, he needs to get a job. And one time I heard my mom defend me and said, She said, David, he's working. He's working. And my work was trying to be good at soccer. It was my identity, more than it should have been, but it was my identity. And my mom had my back. My dad had my back too. And I'm really grateful. They saw that. I don't know, it was potential or just that I was willing to work hard at something. Grateful that my little brother was on the team. We're probably not as close as a lot of brothers. But we have that. Danny went to the ODP tournament in Iowa one summer. He came back. It was a big top players in every age group went there. He went there, came back. We're playing soccer together outside of Knollwood Junior High. For some reason, we were over there, and we were playing, and he was better than me. I'm 2 years older, 1 grade older, but he was better than me. And that hurt. It hurt enough to make sure I worked hard every day. He probably got better at me. He was a different position, so there's probably not a comparison. But from that day on, I worked hard, really hard, and didn't take the ability that I was given for granted. If he was going to beat me, he was going to beat me at my best. He beat me in basketball later on. My junior year, I quit playing basketball because Danny was going to be a starter, and I was going to be lucky to have those snap-off pants sit on the side. I did get to wear those pants one time for a JV game. They were nice. But I decided I wouldn't play because soccer was too important. When in reality, it was my pride getting in the way. He was good, and he pushed me, and I'm better because of it. Our teammates at the time, still some amazing memories. A few of them are here tonight. Several of them are here tonight. Brian Ott was the best goalkeeper in the state for those 2 years. Easy. Best goalkeeper in the state. So we were in great shape. We could take chances, and Brian had our back. He was recruited by everybody at the time. He was a big-time player. Jeff Shepard nominated me, and I'm really grateful. One of my best friends, and I go to his house every day after school. And we'd have a good time. He was always just so much fun. Brian Ott would be there most of the time too, and we'd hang out. But almost every day I ate at Jeff Shepard's house. And I don't know how much money I would owe he and his mother, but a ton. And the other day we were talking, I was telling him how grateful I was for his mom and her willingness, and I really mean it. It was a big deal. And this is a big deal for me. I've been in the audience for things like this a million times. I was an assistant coach at BYU for 21 years. And so it's been my job to be in the audience for a million of these things. All-American banquets all the time. Our head coach got every award you can ever get 5 times. And my primary job at BYU was the associate head coach for women's soccer. And we were top 10 most years, top 20 every year. And I'm a professional at setting up events like this, and I'm really good at listening and learning from other people when they talk, because I've been on the other side, and so this is very humbling. But I'll move forward. But I appreciate the team. It gave me a launching pad to do what I do today, and to try to make a difference. And I'll try to explain that in a minute. But Dr. Stewart was a counselor here. Some of you will know him. He was a counselor here at Shawnee Mission South for years. I don't know how long. I'm not a social media guy. I don't know where everybody's at anymore. But he was smart enough. He hired two assistants. He did a great job. He hired 2 assistant coaches that went to Avila College, All-Americans at Avila. Craig Caston, our first year, he was kind of the varsity coach, and Neil Kelly, our second year. Great coaches who believed in me. And one time we were playing a game at Bishop Miege, and Neil Kelly, at halftime, was laughing with me, telling me what a good job I did. When you're from a family like mine, you're begging for attention. You're just begging for it. And sometimes you do dumb stuff because you want attention so bad. And he told me a story at halftime that basically meant that I mattered to the team, that I mattered. Me being ready to go mattered. And it sunk in with me. Craig Casson fired me up all the time. He'd come just tear me up in practice, just make it so hard. I thought I was cool. He would kill me in practice. And it was really good for me, really humbling. But really smart hires by Dr. Stewart, as we call them. But my takeaway was from Neil Kelly was that I mattered. I mattered to him. And maybe it was just winning. But I could feel that I mattered, and that made me want to be a little bit better, at least for me and my teammates. And our team mattered to Coach Stewart and Coach Kelly. The team mattered. If they thought I was pretty good, then I started to think I was pretty good too. I coach every day. I work now. I just have one. I was with men and women at BYU, and now I'm just with women at Gonzaga. And if there's one thing I know as I coach, It's the importance of making sure the players on your roster, as basically a teacher, that my students know that they matter, that they can contribute. And Neil Kelly, that halftime, made sure I mattered. Fast forward to senior year, there was a assembly in the gym down there, and me and some guys did some dumb stuff in the assembly. And we didn't spend the night, though, by the way. We didn't spend the night. We did some dumb stuff in the assembly and kind of got caught, although Dr. Stewart said, no, Chris wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing it. And I don't think anybody could tell, but I was part of it. But he had my back. And I don't think he probably just didn't see me do it. I don't think he was trying to be deceitful, but he probably didn't see me. And I was really grateful for that because he had my back. And he believed me when I wanted to be believed, when often people didn't believe me at the time. And I'm not sure I earned their belief. But it mattered to me that day. Later on that day, and it's unbelievable that it's here, I have it written down from my notes on the plane today. Guy Malone, he's in the Hall of Fame too, I had no idea. Later on that day, Guy Malone pulls me out of photography class. And he gave me the most important talking to of my life. And basically he said, you're a screw off, man. And you're always going to be one if you don't figure this out soon. He probably said it a lot better than that, but that's what I heard, and he was right. From that day forward, I realized I wanted to be something. Anything but something. I wanted to matter, just like I mattered to Coach Kelly, just like I mattered to Coach Stewart. I wanted to make sure I mattered. And Guy Malone thought he saw me screwing up in that assembly, and he was right. But what mattered in that moment was that I learned the lesson, and I got it. There's a lot of things that I can do better in life, but that moment turned the corner for me. And those of you who are teachers in this room, I appreciate it. Coaches in this room, I appreciate it. I hope for one person I can matter for them just like he did, because I was going down the wrong road. Lastly, I'll just say how grateful I am to be here today. For those of you who are watching or will watch and are here, this is a great school. And I came into the right circumstances, like all of us do in different places at different times. There's windows that open. My window opened here. There were some great players here at the time when I showed up. There were great players on the roster, and we were able to do some great things. But for me, it was just timing, as it always has. Hopefully I've jumped through the right windows at the right times. But I'm grateful for the timing that was put in front of me and the windows that were put in front of me, and for Coach Malone making sure I knew how to jump through those windows. Anyways, go Raiders.
You know, nobody was really sure how the first non-basketball halftime Hall of Fame ceremony would go. It was incredible hearing you three talk. I loved it. I might have cried during part of that, John.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, that's why I kept the mask on. Had it on all day. The best news is Bruce Bove has produced Mr. Coleman's Speedo and a megaphone, and he's going to be doing back handsprings off the diving board in the pool in about 15 minutes. So if you're prepared to see that, that's coming up. Dr. Johnson can close out our ceremony tonight.
Well, I certainly agree with Dave that this is very enjoyable. I will very quickly talk about, as an athletic director and dealing with coaches and athletes, I'm a firm believer in the power of sports. You know, it's a hokey idea, but if you watch ESPN, you watch the documentaries, the 30 for 30s, one of the things I do know is that there is power of sports, there's powers in relationships, And gentlemen like these three are the result of people investing in the power of sports. And I would say this for all the young people that hear this, these are lessons to be listened to, lessons to be learned, and we are privileged tonight to hear your stories, gentlemen. We really appreciate it. So one more time, thank you very much. Congratulations. I want to tell everybody out here, thanks for coming. I know for some of you it's been a sacrifice. We have out to the right, we got a big south deal where you can take all the pictures you want. You can take it with your family. You can take individuals. You can and have that. And please be careful going home. Like Dave said, for whatever reason, we bring bad weather. But I think it got a little bit better. I always want to thank Dave. He does a great job. This is a labor of love for Dave, and this is awesome. So, thanks for coming. Have a great rest of the evening. Take your time heading out. Take your pictures. Gentlemen, thank you. Congratulations. You're in it forever. Those will be up forever. Okay. You guys can come up and take a look what's up here if you want to. Just try to stay socially distant.